My wife Megan and I have been talking about this trip for a long time, and now we are finally standing in front of the hotel in the heart of Sin City. The neon lights of the city twinkle in the night sky, as if welcoming us. The atmosphere around us is simply heart-pounding, and the excitement and anticipation permeate every cell of my body. Walking through the lobby, I can't take my eyes off the bright lights and giant billboards I see through the glass walls. The lights and billboards promised a wild adventure just outside the hotel doors, and the anticipation made my heart race. "Do you think we should really do this?" I whispered, squeezing Megan's hand. She looked up at me, her hazel eyes sparkling with mischief, as if to say, "Of course, we've been planning this for a long time, haven't we?" There was a hint of unease in her smile, but more excitement. "I can't believe it. I'm still waiting to wake up and realize this is all just a dream," she replied with a smile, her eyes sparkling with a sense of longing for the unknown. Her hand held mine tightly, as if seeking a sense of security, as if to tell me that no matter what happens, we will face it together. We walked up to the reception desk, where a welcoming receptionist greeted us. Her warm, sincere smile made us feel at home. While we were checking in, I noticed Megan's gaze fix on a poster for one of the city's most famous strip clubs. The dancers on the poster looked inviting, their lithe bodies and flashing lights beckoning us into a world of temptation. "Is there something that attracts you?" I teased her with a smile and nudged her gently with my elbow. Megan's face flushed slightly, but her gaze never left the poster. A shy smile appeared on her face, but her eyes sparkled with curiosity and excitement. "Maybe you did say that we came here to explore new horizons, didn't you?" she said softly, with a hint of uncertainty in her voice, but more anticipation. I knew that deep down she longed to try something new, and this trip was the perfect opportunity. I felt a flutter. We had discussed the possibility of visiting a strip club in the past, but I wasn't sure if Megan really wanted to go. However, now that I saw her genuine interest, I realized that this trip might be a lot more daring than I had expected. I gently took her hand and gave her an encouraging smile, as if to say, "Whatever you want to do, I'll support you." The elevator starts to rise, and through the wall I can hear the bass coming from the hotel nightclub. The sun has just set, and the mood is already heating up. Megan is close to me, her body warm and soft. Her breath gently brushes my cheek, and I can feel her heart beating faster. "What are our plans for tonight?" she asks softly, her voice full of temptation. Her gaze is full of anticipation, as if waiting for my answer. I put my arms around her waist and pulled her close. "We could have dinner at the steakhouse downstairs and then try our luck at the casino," I whispered, my voice tinged with excitement. I knew that this was just the beginning, that our adventure had only just begun. Megan nodded, but I could tell that her mind was not on dinner at all. And then she continued with a mysterious smile. "There is said to be a famous strip club nearby. If you're interested, you can certainly go and have a look." There was a hint of mischief in her smile, as if she were hinting at something. The elevator doors opened, and we walked out into the corridor. Megan turned to me with a sly smile on the corner of her mouth. "Oh, I'm very interested. But first, let's see what kind of mischief we can play in our room," she said playfully, her eyes sparkling with mischief. There was a hint of provocation in her voice, as if she were inviting me into a world full of surprises. I fiddled with the door card like crazy, my hands trembling with anticipation. At that moment, I realized that this weekend would go down in history. Even though we hadn't left the hotel yet, the city's reputation as a place of freedom and boundless fun had already been confirmed. I took a deep breath, pushed open the door, and welcomed an evening full of passion and adventure. As soon as we entered the hotel room, Megan smiled and pushed me onto the bed. Her hair fell over her bare shoulders like a black waterfall. Her movements were gentle yet powerful, as if to tell me that this night would be ours alone. She lay down next to me, staring at me with burning intensity. Everything happened slowly and quickly at the same time, as if time had come to a standstill, leaving only the heartbeat and breathing of the two of us. I feel her touch like fire, and every movement of her body is like a wave, surging higher and higher. Megan is not the woman I know in my daily life. At this moment, she is liberated, passionate, playful, and charming. Her fingers glide across my chest, leaving fiery trails, as if drawing a mysterious pattern that only the two of us can read. Her breath scorched my skin, and I trembled with each breath. "You're beautiful tonight," I whispered, my voice trembling. Megan smiled slightly, her smile a little shy, but more confident. She leaned down and kissed my lips gently, and this kiss was like electricity, instantly igniting every cell in my body. Her fingers continued to roam over my body, each movement full of temptation and provocation. Her fingernails lightly grazed my skin, causing no pain but adding an indescribable pleasure. I could feel her body pressed against mine, her body temperature like a flame, enveloping me. Her legs wrapped around my waist, as if to tell me that she belonged entirely to me. Our kisses became deeper and more passionate. Her tongue gently explored mine, entwining with mine. This kiss was full of passion and desire, as if to tell us that this night would be an adventure full of passion. Our bodies embraced each other as if they were one, every movement full of harmony and understanding. When we become one, I feel the whole world come to a standstill. Our bodies move in perfect rhythm, without words, without explanation. The feeling is so real, as if it were not a dream, but something beyond reality. Every breath, every moan, is part of the music that flows in the background, blending with the rhythm of our bodies. Her skin is hot, her lips soft, and every time she leans into me, I feel a whirlwind of emotions, excitement, passion, love. Time and time again, we find each other, and every moment brings us closer together. Her movements become bolder and more unrestrained. Her hands glide over my body, leaving fiery trails, as if each of her fingers were on fire. Her fingernails graze my skin, adding to the pleasure rather than causing any pain. I can feel every movement, every twitch, as she becomes completely one with me. Her breasts press against mine, and I can feel her heart beating rapidly, in time with my own. She moved again and again, her body tireless, as if possessed of infinite energy. Every time she accelerated, I felt new emotions well up inside me. Her breathing became rapid and intermittent. She clenched her lips, her back arched with extreme excitement, and I felt her fingernails pierce my shoulders. It didn't hurt, and it was further proof that she now belonged entirely to me. I see the change in her face as she reaches orgasm. Her eyes close, her head tilts back, Her body trembles with tension. Her moan is soft, almost inaudible, but I hear it perfectly clearly, as if it were the only sound in the world at the moment. Her body arches in one final movement, and I follow her, completely overwhelmed by the wave of pleasure that sweeps over me. As we both find ourselves in a state where the world around us becomes blurred, we hold each other tightly, as if we are afraid of losing this moment. Her body is still trembling, but her breathing has become slow and deep. She is pressed close to me, her hair resting on my chest, and I can feel her breathing gradually calming down. The world has returned to peace, but the flames of passion she has ignited in us are still burning brightly within us. We lie in each other's arms, catching our breath. The stars still twinkle in my eyes, her head resting on my chest, my fingers lazily tracing circles on her back. Then there is a silence, warm and comforting, as if to confirm the new fire that has been lit between us that night. We say nothing, sleep in each other's arms, our bodies entwined, still bearing the marks of a night of passion. This night, we not only explored each other's bodies, but also found an unprecedented connection in the depths of our hearts. Later, we entered the club and were immediately drawn in by the music and flashing lights. The club was full of people, the music deafening, and the lights blooming like colorful fireworks in the sky, creating a feverish and disorienting atmosphere. I glanced at Megan, her eyes sparkling with excitement, as if she were completely captivated by the gorgeous scene. She squeezed my hand, leaned in close, and shouted over the rumbling, "It's great." I nodded with a smile. The atmosphere around me had infected me, and I couldn't help swaying to the rhythm. We squeezed through the crowd and found 2 empty seats next to the stage. The lights on the stage kept changing, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, adding a sense of mystery to the performance. A tall blonde had just finished her performance and received a stack of bills from the audience in the front row. Her graceful and sexy dance won the audience's applause. "What are you drinking?" I asked Megan, my voice almost drowned out by the music. Megan nodded, her eyes glued to the stage, as if she didn't want to miss a moment. I waved the waitress over and ordered 2 premium whiskeys. When she returned, I thanked her generously. "Don't stop more," I said, smiling and winking at her, hoping to liven up the evening. The next dancer to take to the stage was a petite brunette with long, slender legs. Her dance was full of power and charm, every movement precise and rhythmic. Megan leaned forward, waiting for the performance to continue. I pulled out a wad of bills and handed her half of it. "Here," I said, "let's make it rain." Megan's face lit up with a smile of joy as she took the money, as if this small gesture had made her even more excited. As the dancers approached us, we began throwing banknotes onto the stage. She blew us a kiss in return, and Megan responded with a surprisingly bolder gesture that drew a cheer from those around us, with a hint of mischief and daring in her movements. Time passed unknowingly, and the night was coming to an end. We continued to enjoy the company of our friends and the steady flow of drinks. The dancers were drawn to us like moths to a flame, paying us extra attention. The alcohol slowly warmed my bloodstream, bringing a sense of comfort and relaxation. Megan was radiant in the club's lights. Her black hair fell over her shoulders like a silky waterfall, swaying gently with her movements. I couldn't take my eyes off her, her eyes sparkling with a playfulness and boldness I'd never noticed before. "You're beautiful," I whispered, leaning in close, my voice almost as elusive as a breeze. Megan turned to me, a mischievous smile on her lips. "I do feel good," she replied. "This is so much fun." I've always admired Megan's confidence, but tonight there was a new quality to her, a playfulness and boldness I'd never noticed before. The music suddenly changes and a new dancer takes to the stage. Her movements are mesmerizing, her body swaying and twisting to the rhythm. Her gaze wanders across the room and suddenly settles on Megan. The dancer moves to the edge of the stage, and her smile becomes even more captivating. She looks Megan straight in the eye and reaches out her hand. "Do you want to try?" she asks, her voice loud and clear over the music. My heart raced. Megan glanced up at me, her eyes filled with excitement and hesitation. I nodded and gave a smile of encouragement, which was enough. Without hesitation, she took the dancer's hand and walked onto the stage. As the audience burst into applause and whistles, I felt a wave of pride, mixed with other emotions, perhaps ecstasy, even excitement. "Go, Megan!" I shouted, cheering Megan on and joining the audience in the applause. On stage, she looked a little nervous at first, but the dancer whispered something in her ear and Megan smiled. It was as if she had pressed a switch at that very moment, and she was a completely different person. The neon lights illuminated her face as the dancer led her to the chair in the center of the stage. Our eyes met for a moment, and I saw a mixture of shyness and pure joy in her eyes. My heart beat in time with the bass rhythm coming from the speakers, each beat reverberating in my chest. Megan's fingers tremble slightly as the dancers begin their seductive performance. Every movement is carefully choreographed to heighten the tension. The crowd's applause grows louder and louder, and I notice Megan clench her lips as excitement washes over her face. Her eyes sparkle as she runs from one dancer to another and then to the crowd, enjoying the eager stares. Then another dancer took to the stage. Their movements were perfectly synchronized. The atmosphere in the room grew more and more intense, as if an electric current was running through the space. Every second felt like an eternity as the dresses slowly slipped off their bodies. I gripped the edge of my seat. The current seemed to connect us all, Megan, the dancers, me, and the audience, in a spontaneous symphony of primal desire. With each passing minute, the tension grew. The dancers played with Megan, pushing the anticipation to the limit. Suddenly, her bra came loose and her breasts slipped out. There was a loud cheer and a whistle from the club. Megan's eyes widened at first, but then the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. Pure pleasure shone in her eyes. She was the confident, reserved Megan, enjoying the attention like never before. The dancers continue to tease the audience, and the audience's response becomes extremely enthusiastic. Megan gracefully stands up, glances at me, seeking my affirmation and my consent. I eagerly respond to her gaze, feeling my own excitement building. She twists her hips and dances fluidly to the rhythm of the music. The atmosphere in the club is irresistible, and every shout and applause blends into the rhythm that takes us soaring. Finally, she appears. In the bright spotlight, she is naked, her body gleaming in the cold light. Her eyes are wide, as if the world around her has suddenly disappeared. leaving only the scene before her, her movements, and me. Every step she takes is magical, surprise and excitement accompanied by growing confidence, which surrounds her as she reaches the edge of the stage. A single bead of sweat glistened on her skin, accentuating every curve of her body. Every curve of her body was like a work of art. Time seemed to stop when her gaze met mine. Everything around me disappeared. The sound of the crowd faded away. Only Megan remained, and I saw every tiny detail of her body as if it were our own private reality. The man behind me sighed, "My God," which perfectly reflected what I was thinking. Her breasts were bare, rising and falling slightly with her rapid breathing, flawless. The spotlight illuminated her skin, glowing with a soft golden sheen. As she moved, her body was as supple as a dancer's, every muscle pulsing to the music. She seemed to be completely in the moment. Her hips swayed, outlining the perfect line of her waist, and her legs extended downwards, seemingly endless. I watched her approach, her movements becoming more and more unrestrained, her steps bold and provocative. She knew the whole audience was watching her, but her gaze never left mine, which made every movement she made even more intimate. Every touch of her body felt like lightning. Her fingers slowly slid down her thighs, accentuating the delicate lines of her skin. Then she raised her arms, stretching her body, her breasts rising naturally, accentuating her perfect figure. It was as if she wasn't dancing for the crowd, but for me. At that moment, I couldn't take my eyes off her. It was as if her figure occupied all my thoughts. Every movement, every curve aroused my endless admiration and desire. Her belly tightened slightly as her hips swayed towards me. She walked to the edge of the stage, crossed her legs gracefully, and was right next to me. The spotlight made her look like an angel. Her gaze was bold, playful, and incredibly seductive. I feel completely immersed in the dance, in her naked, gleaming body. Every step she takes resonates with me, stirring a wave of awe. I can't find the words to describe what I'm seeing. Megan is in control of the stage, captivating everyone, including me, with her unrestrained performance. It's not just admiration, but a mixture of excitement, pride, and wonder. Every touch from the dancer, every cheer from the audience, inspires her. The song ends with a heavy bass line, and the DJ's voice echoes through the speakers. "Friends, let's drink to Megan," he shouts, calling out her name. The crowd erupts in a loud applause, and the cheers echo off the walls. Megan stays on stage for a moment, her face beaming with pride and joy. Two dancers lead her backstage to pick up the banknotes scattered on the floor. I watch her disappear behind the curtain, a wave of pride welling up inside me. Back at the table, I took a few deep breaths to calm my racing heart. Moments later, she reappeared on stage, already dressed, but with a new, determined confidence. Her gaze met mine again, igniting in me the same fire of desire that I saw in her eyes. She walked towards me, like a queen returning to her throne. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Let's go to the hotel. I want you." Her voice was full of determined passion. Without a moment's delay, we left the club, almost running. The night air brushed our faces with a chill, but even that could not extinguish the fire within us. The neon lights of the city back at the table, I took a few deep breaths to try to calm my pounding heart. It felt as if my heart was still beating to the rhythm of the club, and the excitement and passion were still coursing through my body. A few moments later, Megan reappeared on stage, already dressed in a different outfit, but with a new, determined confidence. Her gaze met mine again, igniting in me the same fire of desire that I saw in her eyes. She walked towards me, like a queen returning to her throne, every step full of power and charm. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Let's go to the hotel. I want you." Her voice was full of determined passion, low and magnetic, as if an electric current had instantly run through my whole body. Without a moment's delay, we left the club, almost running. The night air brushed our faces with a chill, but even that could not extinguish the fire in our hearts. The neon lights of the city illuminated our route back to the hotel, transforming into a kaleidoscope of colors that reflected our intense emotions. The noise of the street faded away, leaving only the sound of our hearts beating and our breathing. "Oh my God, Megan, this is incredible," I gasped, my voice hoarse with longing as we approached the hotel entrance. She smiled slyly, her lips quivering with uncontrollable laughter, but her eyes were still blazing with passion. "I can't get over the way you look at me," she said, her voice tinged with a hint of triumph and satisfaction. The rush of passion hit us as soon as we entered the room. We barely had time to close the door before we tore off each other's clothes. As our clothes fell to the floor, our bodies clung to each other as if we wanted to become one. We collapsed on the bed, our limbs entwined. I knew she felt the same way, holding on to me like an anchor. We moved to a silent rhythm, and my imagination returned to the spotlight on her on the stage, her dance igniting my passion. The world around us disappeared, melting into this moment. Her hair falls over my shoulders, soft strands tickling my chest as she moves closer. Our kiss is explosive, deep and passionate, with the tang of whiskey and a wildness she releases after her dance. I can feel her weight on my hips as she leans over me, her hips moving to the rhythm, making me feel as if we are still dancing. Her movements were unrestrained and agile, as if she were dancing in ecstasy, as if she were completely absorbed in the music of the stage. Now she gave herself to me without reservation. Her hands glided over my body, leaving fiery trails, as if each of her fingers were burning. Her fingernails scraped against my skin, adding to the pleasure instead of causing pain. I could feel every movement, every twitch, as she became completely united with me. Her breasts pressed against mine, and I could feel her heart beating rapidly in time with my own. She moved again and again, her body tireless, as if possessed of infinite energy, and each time she accelerated, I could feel new emotions welling up inside me. Her breathing became rapid and labored. She clenched her lips, her back arched with extreme excitement, and I felt her nails dig into my shoulders. It doesn't hurt, and it's further proof that she belongs to me now. I see the change in her face as she reaches orgasm. Her eyes close, her head tilts back, her body trembles with tension. Her moan is soft, almost inaudible, but I hear it perfectly clearly, as if it were the only sound in the world at the moment. Her body arches in one final movement, and I follow her, completely swept away by the wave of pleasure that sweeps over me. As we both find ourselves in a state where the world around us becomes blurred, we hold each other tightly, as if we are afraid of losing this moment. Her body is still trembling, but her breathing has become slow and deep. She is pressed close to me, her hair resting on my chest, and I can feel her breathing gradually calming down. The world has returned to peace, but the fire she lit with her dance still burns brightly within us. Later, we lay in each other's arms, breathing again. The stars still twinkled in my eyes, her head resting on my chest, my fingers lazily tracing circles on her back. Then there was a silence, warm and comforting, as if to confirm the new fire that had been lit between us that night. Without a word, we fell asleep in each other's arms, our bodies intertwined, still bearing the marks of a passionate night. That night, we not only explored each other's bodies, but also found an unprecedented connection in the depths of our hearts.